Envision the winter landscape not as a bleak adversary that saps your vitality in piles on pounds, but as a cunning conspirator in your quest for a sleeker silhouette. As snowflakes dance and winds whisper through bare branches, the majority of us grapple with the insidious creep of metabolic torpor, those relentless cravings for hearty stews, the unyielding grip of holiday indulgences, and the betrayal of the body that seems hell-bent on insulating itself against the freeze. Yet, nestled within the seasonal symphony lies an underappreciated boon, one that a discerning cadre of wellness enthusiasts exploits with remarkable finesse. By artfully manipulating insulin's delicate dance through a deceptively simple, cold-infused maneuver, they catalyze a fat-incinerating blaze that outpaces conventional efforts by leaps and bounds. Empirical explorations underscore this. When deployed with precision, this tactic can propel weight reduction at velocities that defy the doldrums of December, transforming frostbitten frustration into fervent progress. Embark with me on this odyssey into physiological undercurrents of the colder climes, where we'll illuminate the covert dialogues between your environment and your endocrine orchestra. The bite of crisp air doesn't merely chill the airwaves. It orchestrates a cascade of adaptations that subtly sculpt your appetite, your thermal regulation, and the very cadence of your cellular fuel management. From the epidermis's vigilant sentinels to the hypothalamus's imperious commands, every nuance, from fleeting daylight to dermal chill, exerts a profound sway over hormonal harmony and glycemic governance. For over half a century, inquisitive minds in white coats have peeled back these layers, unearthing revelations that shimmer with promise. Winter isn't a metabolic minefield, but fertile forge for forging resilience and refinement in your body's energy architecture. Central to this narrative is a form of adipose architecture that defies the villainous archetype of its pallid kin, the tenacious, calorie-clutching white fat that mocks your mirror's reflection. Enter brown adipose tissue, the unsung hero of thermogenesis, a metabolic maestro capable of alchemizing stored sustenance into radiant warmth, thereby kindling a caloric conflagration that aids insulin's quest for equilibrium. This is a mere folklore. It's a dormant dynamo, primed and waiting for winter's clarion call to rouse from repose. As temperatures tumble, it surges to prominence, not as a burdensome bulk, but as a benevolent burner, facilitating a cascade of benefits that ripple through your insulin pathways and beyond. We'll traverse this terrain meticulously, from the molecular murmurs to the macroscopic miracles, equipping you with a blueprint to beckon this ally forth. Consider the elegance of activation. A mere shiver in the ambient aura suffices to summon brown fat from its slumbers. This specialized sentinel, concentrated in the neck, shoulders, and upper back like hidden embers in a hearth, boasts an abundance of mitochondria, those tireless organelles, the cell's own spark plugs, engineered to oxidize lipids and carbohydrates with fervent efficiency. Upon ignition, it doesn't hoard. It hurls resources into the fray, transmuting triglycerides and glucose into a steady stream of heat via uncoupling proteins that bypass the usual energy-capturing rigmarole. The upshot? A passive uptick in your resting metabolic expenditure, where calories cascade away like leaves in an autumn gale, all without the demand for deliberate exertion. In the winter's theater, this mechanism attains operatic heights, as evolutionary imperatives amplify its output to thwart hypothermia's grasp, turning the season into a spontaneous symposium on sustainable slimming. Yet, the plot thickens with insulin's starring role, the pancreatic peptide that presides over sugar symphony. As brown fat feasts upon circulating fuels, it exerts a voracious pull on plasma glucose, compelling your body to recalibrate its insulin output for surgical precision. This isn't haphazard. It's a honed response where adipocytes and myocytes alike heighten their affinity for the hormone, ushering sugars into utilization rather than sequestration as stubborn stores. The dividends are manifold. Attenuated postprandial peaks that tame the tide of tiredness, a blunted propensity for adipose accrual, and an appetite apparatus that's less prone to piratical plunder. In essence, this cold kiss communion forges a metabolic milieu where insulin doesn't dictate deposition, but champions combustion, rendering winter's woes into wellsprings of wellness. The stratagem's sophistication transcends mere exposure to the elements. It's a symphony of seasonal synergy, where cooler cues conduct insulin toward trajectories of triumph. We'll dissect the diurnal dialogues, the neural missives dispatched from frost-kissed follicles to the brainstem, the lipolytic librettos sung between adipocytes and alpha cells that dictate whether your frame forges ahead or falters. Why do some souls emerge from solstice slimmer, their silhouettes sharpened by the sigh of the spontaneous hemolysis, while others succumb to the siren song of sedentary snacking? The divergence dwells in daily decisions. The fortuitous foragers who flirt with rigidity fare far better, their bodies attuned to a tempo that torches rather than treasures. These esoteric exchanges elude the everyday ear, yet they etch indelible impacts on your trajectory. Equally enlightening are the errata to evade, the insidious inadvertences that invert intent. Picture the paradox. One succumbs to the siren call of sugary solace at twilight, when circadian clocks crave composure, or burrows beneath blankets in a balmy bastion, blunting the body's innate ignition switch. Such slips stifle the seasonal spark, consigning potential to perdition. By journey's terminus, you'll wield a veritable armory of admonitions and affirmations, gleaned from galvanometric gleanings and isotopic inquiries that map how thermal transitions transmute energy economies. From PET scans peering into brown fats blazed to longitudinal logs of lipid liberation, the corpus of evidence affirms. Judicious chills can catalyze glycemic grace in a fortnight span, anointing winter as the weight warrior's wisest weapon, pristine, primal, and profoundly potent. Linger through the labyrinth, for the crescendo crowns a core, the codified cadence culled from the chronicles of the swiftest seasonal shedders. It's an unpretentious protocol, eschewing extremities embrace. No glacial plunges or frosty flagellations, yet embeds an enduring ember, elevating quotidian calorie quotas, sans strain or strife. A solitary oversight could conclude the opus. So savor each stanza. Should explorations into evidence-emboldened empowerment ignite your intellect, pledge your presence to our pavilion of perspicacity. Dispatches descend with diurnal devotion, each epistle etching executable esoterica into the fabric of feasible flourishing. Strategies that scaffold stamina and sculpt serenity. Brown adipose tissue emerges as physiology's prodigal prodigy, perpetually pigeonholed beside its profligate white counterpart, the energy-entombing elephant in the corporeal closet. White fat, that parsimonious pantry, amasses abundance for leaner latitudes. Brown fat, by contrast, is a bonfire baron, branded by its bounty of beta-oxidative batteries. Mitochondria, those minuscule marvels, multiply manifold within its matrix, each a microcosm of metabolic mayhem, primed to pulverize protons and protons into photonic fervor. Activation unleashes this armada. Glucose gremlins and fatty acid phantoms are commandeered from the vascular vanguard, funneled through the electron transport expressway, and exhaled as exothermic exuberance. The collateral? A clandestine crest in your caloric crest, cresting without corporeal clamor, a silent sabotage of surplus that sloughs sedentary stagnation. The catalyst? Cole's clarion clarinet, a sensory sonata that strikes the sympathetic strings. Thermoreceptors, those dermal divas, detect the decrement and declaim to the dorsal horn, igniting noradrenergic nerves that needle the network to life. Ablaze, it endures an elegy of endurance, enveloping vitals in velvet warmth while whittling waistlines unwittingly. This accounts for the anomalous animation in Arctic ambits. The brisk brigade's brown batteries are belting ballads of bioenergetics, harmonizing heat with hunger's hush. Insulin interlaces this intrigue indelibly, infusing intellect into instinct. As brown fat banquets on blood-borne bounty, glycemia dips, dictating a diminution in insulin's issuance, yet with amplified acuity. Cellular sentinels, sensitized by the surge, snatch sugars with sharpened synapses, subverting storage's seduction. This ballet begets a beneficent biosphere. Sugars siphoned for sustenance, not sequestration. Lipids liberated from lethargy, and a hormonal homeostasis that hampers hoarding's hegemony. Winter's weaves this web tighter, as thermic tides test and temper the tandem, transmuting tandem trials into triumphs of throughput. Metabolism, that mercurial maestro, marinates in this merger. Brown fats blaze balloons basal burn. Insulin's injunctions infuse influxes into intracellular industries. Conjoined, they cleave clogs from the conduit, catalyzing a current where calories cavort ceaselessly, circumventing the seasonal snare of stasis. Amidst the meridian's chill, this confederacy coalesces, Escalated exigencies exalt exertion. Insulin's insight intensifies, and the diurnal dynamo drones on, dispensing dividends in dormant domains. The ploys pivot, palatable plunges into paled panoramas, measured meanders into mild malaise that muster your medullary mechanisms minus menace. Dismiss the dramatics of dunk tanks or dry ice dalliances. Embrace the elegance of evasion from equatorial excess. A fractional fall in Fahrenheit flickers the fuse, forwarding fiat, the fats forge without fanfare or frostbite. Winter's wardrobe whispers away. No contrivance required, merely concurrence with the cosmos's cue. Infuse it ingeniously. Lounge in a louvered lounge, loiter in lighter linens on a laneway, or lessen the lair's luminous largesse. The cuticle chronicles a chronicle first, cueing a corollary conflagration where brown bastions besiege buffers to birth balance. This inward inferno, insidious in its intimacy, instigates an ideology of indulgence-free incineration, insulating against ingestive insurrection and inaugurating intensified interchange. Chronometry crowns a craft. Circadian cadences of cool confer compounded clout. Aurora's auras of asperity arouse adrenergic arcs, priming the pump for the day's daring dew. Vespertine ventures vanquish vacillations, vesting vitality in the vigil. Recurring refrains reinforce robustness, riveting your regimen to respond with relish to refractive ripples and resource reclamation. Notwithstanding, nuances the narrative. No nostrum navigates all navigators. Brown fats bequests is bespoke, bequeathed bountifully by bloodlines, beleaguered by birthdays, or bolstered by brawn. Duplicated directives may dazzle one denizen with dynamism while dawdling for another, a diorama of diversity demanding deference to dialectics. Divergence decrees discernment. Dial to your decibels. Comfort's cartel commands caution. If chill chafes into chagrin, catabolic cascades conjure cortisol's cabal, corroding the core's cadence and conjuring confectionary compulsions. Heed the hemline, hover at harmony, or a hazard hampers him. Veracity's vortex vexes variably. Thermoregulatory travails tempt tumults of tummy rumbles, transfiguring torching into trough filling. Attuned to appetitive auguries, less ledger's ledger lurches leftward. Ambience's atelier asserts agency. Sweltering sanctum smothers sparks. Overzealous ozone occasions osculation with oblivion. The fulcrum of felicity favors the fastidious, fostering through feel. Frailties frame the frame for some. Vascular vicissitudes, metabolic mazes, or meager mantles mandate moderation. Even exemplars ebb. Somnolent shortfalls, strife stings, or sustenance's sway the sway. Steadfastness savors situational savvy. Initiate immersion with innocuous innovations. Attenuate the abode's ardor incrementally. A breath of briskness begets basal beckoning, beguiling browns amid banal ballets like bibliographic browses or brainstorming bouts. Extramural escapades, enrobed economically, etch ephemeral with efficacy. A saunter sweep summons the symphony sans symphony of shivers. Ablutionary artistry allures. Commence in cordial cascades, climax in a crisp curtain call. This tonal traverse tantalizes without terror, tempering temperament and thermals tandemly. Enliven with locomotive leitmotifs, languid lapse or lithe limberings in the lenient low. Liaising lean tissue with lipid legions for a liturgy of lavish liberation. Potentiate the paradigm with pillar practices. Proteic pantries and phytogenic feasts fortify the forge. Nocturnal nests nurture neural nets. Neutering nibbles nagging. Aqueous allegiance assuages adaptational aches. These keystones kindle cold's kernel, knitting it into a knotwork of kinetic kinship. In summation, the season's shiver stands sentinel. Not solitary but symphonic. A subtle summons to summon brown fat's blaze, to burnish blood sugar's ballet, to bestow a ballast of balance blaze across the breadth of being. These graces germinate grandly when grafted onto a garden of Gates' grace, gastronomy's gospel and slumber's sacrament. The frost-fringed firmament furnishes a forum. Fruition flowers from fidelity and finesse. If this tapestry tantalizes, tender your tribute and tether to our trove for tidal treasures in testimonial tenacity, unfurling the unfurled frontiers of form and function.